All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about something that is, quite frankly, the bedrock for everything else happening in AI, the foundations of ethical AI. This stuff, well, it's everything. So to make sure we're all on the same page, our guide for this whole discussion is actually Chapter 1 of this really fantastic document. It's called Ethical AI and AI Security, a Comprehensive Glossary, and it's from Virtualization Options LLC. We're literally starting at the beginning with the core ideas you absolutely have to know. And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? I mean, AI is everywhere now. It's changing our world, from how we bank to how we see our doctors. But who is writing the rules for all this? Who's in charge? It's a massive question, and we have to start asking it.
Okay, so to even start to answer that, we've got to go back to the beginning. Let's talk about the big idea here, setting the ground rules.
The first big ground rule, it's the concept of ethical AI itself. And look, this isn't about code and algorithms, not really. It's about philosophy. It's the why behind everything. It forces us to stop and ask the really tough questions, like, why are we even building this? Or what's the real impact on people and society? You can think of it as the moral compass for this whole wild world of AI. Now, this is a super important distinction that people mix up all the time. You hear ethical AI and responsible AI, and they sound the same, right? But they're not. Think of it like this. Ethical AI is the why. It's the big philosophical idea. Responsible AI is the how. It's the nuts and bolts, the actual practice of making it happen. It's taking those big ideas about what's right and actually building them into the systems. You need both. One without the other is, well, it's pretty much useless. All right, so we've got our philosophy, our why, so what's next? Well, now we need the blueprint. We need the actual plan for how we build this stuff right, from the very beginning, not as some kind of afterthought. And a huge piece of that blueprint is something called privacy by design. And honestly, this is a game changer. It's this idea that privacy isn't some extra feature you just bolt on at the end. No, it has to be baked in from the very start. It has to be part of the system's DNA, right from the first drawing on a napkin. It's all about being proactive instead of just reacting to problems after they happen. And here's a great example of what that actually looks like. Imagine a health app on your phone. The old way, it would just suck up all your data, just in case. But with privacy by design, it only takes the absolute bare minimum it needs to function. A lot of the time, it does the work right there on your device, so the data never even leaves. And this is the kicker. It's designed so even the developers can't peek at your personal health info. That is what we mean by baked in. Okay, next up in our blueprint, inclusive design. This is all about being intentional. It's about consciously deciding to build AI that works for everybody, not just for some imaginary average person, but for real people with all sorts of different backgrounds, abilities, and needs. I mean, we've all used voice assistants, right? Well, a perfect example of this in action is a voice assistant that's truly inclusive. It's not just trained on one standard newscaster accent. No way. It's trained on tons of different accents and speech patterns. It's built to understand people who might have a speech impairment, and it offers other options like visual feedback for folks who are deaf or hard of hearing. It's about making sure the technology serves all of us, not the other way around. Okay, so we've got our blueprint. But what happens when the rubber meets the road? When these AI systems start making real decisions that affect real people's lives, that's when we need some serious rules of fair play. Let's talk about fairness and accountability. This one is so important. Accountability. It means you can't just throw your hands up and blame the black box. You know that excuse, oh, the algorithm did it. That's just not good enough. Accountability means when something goes wrong, someone, a person, a team, is on the hook. There has to be a clear line of responsibility. And this example really drives it home, because the stakes couldn't be higher. Imagine a bank's AI is systematically denying loans to qualified people, maybe just because of their zip code. Accountability isn't some vague concept then. It's the process that says, okay, there's a specific team whose job it is to figure out why this happened, to fix the broken system, and critically, to help the people who were wronged. And that leads us right to fairness. And I gotta tell you, this is maybe one of the trickiest concepts in all of ethical AI. Because fair isn't just one simple thing. The source we're using calls it multifaceted, and that is the perfect word for it. What feels fair in one situation can be totally unfair in another. It's really complicated. In fact, we can break it down into at least 4 different kinds of fairness. There's statistical fairness. Are the outcomes similar for different groups? There's procedural fairness. Is the actual process, the set of rules, fair? Distributive fairness. Who's getting the good stuff and who's getting the raw deal? And then there's individual fairness, the idea that people who are similar should be treated similarly. You can't just pick one. You have to think about all of them. So at the end of the day, none of this matters. The philosophy, the blueprint, the rules. If people don't actually trust these systems, and building that trust, well, that's the trust equation. And it's all about keeping humans in control. A massive part of that equation is transparency. But let's be really clear about what that means. It does not mean dumping a million lines of code online that only 3 people in the world can understand. That's not transparency. True transparency means giving clear, understandable information to everyone involved, the people using it, the people regulating it, even the people building it. So what does that actually look like? Well, it breaks down into 4 key things. 1, what does this thing actually do? 2, how does it work, in simple terms? 3, what data is it using? And 4, and this might be the most important one, what are its limits? What are the risks? You have to be honest about what it can't do. Let's put this into the real world. Say you're applying for a job. A transparent system would tell you right up front, hey, an AI is going to look at your application first. Then it would explain what it's looking for, specific skills, years of experience. It would also be upfront about what it's bad at, like judging creativity. See? It gives you, the applicant, the power of knowing what's going on. And the last piece of this trust puzzle is what we call human in the loop. It's a pretty simple idea. For the really big, high-stakes decisions, a human has to be there to sign off. But, and this is a big but, we have to watch out for automation bias. That's where a person just gets lazy and clicks approve, approve, approve without really thinking. The human oversight has to be real and meaningful, not just a rubber stamp. Content moderation online is a perfect example of this. A good human-in-the-loop system isn't just someone mindlessly clicking buttons. It's a trained moderator who gets the context, who understands cultural nuance, and who has the final say. They can look at what the AI flagged and say, nope, you got this one wrong, and make the final call. That's meaningful oversight. So there you have it. We've talked about the philosophy, the blueprint, the rules of the game, and how we build trust. These are the foundations of ethical AI. But it all comes down to this one giant question. We know the principles, but how do we actually make sure they get used in the real world? How do we put them into practice? That right there is the real challenge, isn't it?